Welcome to Mr. Biz Radio, biz talk for biz owners. If you're ready to stop faking the funk and take your business onward and upward, this show is for you. And now, here's Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth.
All right, welcome to another episode of Mr. Biz Radio with me, Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth. And we're going to talk about something today that I've been pretty passionate about for the last, at least 10 years, actually longer than that, and now I think about it. And it is extremely frustrating to me about some of the things that I want to call the fallacies that are spread in the United States, especially. I'm sure other places of the world, but I know I'm most familiar with what's going on in the United States, of course, of fallacies of what, great health is and how to be healthy and how to extend your lifespan, et cetera. And it's so many things that are being shared regularly in the media and just all over the place, especially in the age of social media and all that kind of stuff. And it's just so frustrating to me. I'm like, we got to do something about this. And I wanted to have a guest on to talk about this. And we are very fortunate to find someone who is passionate about this, probably much more passionate even than I am about it, and an expert. And he's been doing this for a long time. Our guest this week is Dr. James Cima. His journey began becoming a doctor of chiropractic, started when he suffered a back injury at the age of 15 and spent years enduring back pain. When he graduated from Cornell University with a Bachelor of Science, someone suggested he visit a chiropractor. So he goes on, and I don't want to give away too much of this. We've got a bunch of the history of him, but he's been doing this. Look, Dr. Cima, I don't want to call you out because, I always joke with people on the show about, you could tell my gray hair, my experience, but I'm just going to say many decades he's devoted to figuring out health and wellness and things like that. Dr. Cima, welcome to Mr. Biz Radio.
Thank you, Ken. Much appreciated.
Yeah, looking forward to talking through this. Like I said, definitely a topic that I'm very interested in. And I guess before we dive into all that, though, I don't want to give too much of it away in the intro, but tell us a little bit about your career, your entrepreneurial journey.
Well, it basically started in 1980. My wife and I just had moved to Florida, and we just wanted to start all fresh, brand new place. Started to practice with a doctor who I knew. And upon graduating chiropractic school, let me just back up. Back in 1977, I saw a quote from Thomas Edison about the doctor of the future. It said, the doctor of the future will prescribe no medication, but just his patients in diet, care of the human frame, and the cause and prevention of disease. And I said, that's what I want to be. I knew from that day forward, that's what I wanted to be. But there was no book or books. There was no course or courses. There was just that quote that identified or defined the doctor of the future. So it was really, I was so passionate about it, Ken, that I just went crazy, just studying, learning about nutrition, learning about how to take care of the body, what health was, what health is, how long a human being can live, and good health. And so the more I studied, the more I realized that, okay, there are three components to excellent health. A lot of people think that, well, if I eat right, I'm okay. That's only 1/3 of the puzzle. We're a triune. We have three sides. We have a chemical side, which is your nutritional, which is based on the science of chemistry. We have a physical side because we have a physical body, which the science comes from physics. And then we have a mental emotional side. And so each component is 1/3 of your health, 1/3 of your health, and 1/3 of your health. Now you can have the greatest diet in the world, and I'd rather see that than some of the food that people eat today. But you're physically messed up, or you're mentally, emotionally stressed. I mean, when I say stress, I mean you could be just a typical human being, just going through life, a family, difficulties at work. That kind of stress has a tremendous amount of trauma to your body through the whole mental emotional aspect of your health. And so people are just, in fact, today, people are so stressed out because of everything that's going on. They don't know what to do. The news basically helps promote a lot of negative karma out there by just letting people think that there's, things are a lot worse than they are. And that's how they basically get through things. But the medical establishment, I call it the medical industrial complex, basically now runs exactly what you hear on and see on TV. And in fact, every other commercial is a drug commercial. And I never thought in my lifetime I would ever see that, but there are two countries in the world that allow pharmaceutical drugs to have commercials on TV. One is the United States and one is Australia. And any other country out there forbids that. And you basically be fined or you'll basically be sued, because if you did something like that in any other country, that's what they would do. So with that being said, you just look at, and every study that's out there, whether it's cholesterol, it's all supported by the pharmaceutical companies. And they're the ones that basically run everything. And they decide what works, what doesn't work, what health is, what health isn't. And if you really look at it, we have something called the Food and Drug Administration. They take care of our foods, and then they utilize foods that are so bad that eventually you're going to need the drugs to take care of your health for the rest of your life. And I'm not against the abuse of medications. In fact, we're maybe 3% of the population of the world, and we consume, I think, 75% of the drugs out there. So I'm interested in the abuse of that. Use of medications, yes, that's important at certain times, but the majority of the times you don't need it, and sooner or later, if you don't get off that medication, it's just going to basically have really bad. They call them side effects. I call them diseases, because that's what you have when you have symptoms. It's not a side effect. It's a symptom, is a disease process going on in your body. And if you look at any pharmaceutical drug out there, there's like 30, 40, 50 different kinds of symptoms or diseases that you can develop from that medication, not to mention a whole batch of symptoms or diseases that come into play when you're utilizing 2 or 3 or 4 different drugs at the same time. I think the average, let's say, 65-year-old today, which really isn't old, okay, is on anyways between 5 to 10 different medications a year, whether it be for diabetes, cholesterol, high blood pressure, and then they have the antibiotics and all the other kinds of medications for whatever you're going to be utilizing, that pain, muscle relaxants. These are all things to, medications to sleep. They're on at least 5 to 10 different medications. And at that particular, stage of your life, you should be really healthy. But because of all the things that we've done in the last 20, 30, 40 years, it's had a big impact on the health. And the medical profession at this particular point is focusing on, let's just kind of like maintain everything and kind of keep you as comfortable as we can for the next 5 or 10 years as you kind of wither away. And that's the way I don't want to go. And at this particular point, I mean, I'm now 75 years of age, and I've been practicing and developing this material for 5 decades. And so when I watch and I see what's going on with the whole cholesterol thing, they've literally destroyed our overall health just with the cholesterol nonsense. This is what we can get into in let's say in the next part of the show, because that is one of the things that they really destroyed our health with, during, let's say, the last 30 or 40 years. And as soon as the cholesterol material came out and said, cholesterol, especially the LDLs, were bad, and they were the black hat cholesterol, and you can't do that, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, you can't eat eggs because it has high cholesterol, but you can eat chicken. It's like, well, where did the freaking eggs come from? Where it came from,
Right.
Where did chicken come from? So it's like they kind of like confuse everything and they kind of blow everything away. But we'll talk about that in the next segment. So
Yeah, so many things. Like you said, we're running out of time here in this segment, but so many things I want to get into and talk about, including the whole cholesterol thing, because again, I'm a complete neophyte in this space, especially compared to someone like yourself. But it seems to me that's kind of where it all started, right? And it's almost like I hate to say this, I almost feel like they threw it out there, like, are people going to buy this? Like, and let's see if this works. So we're going to continue talking with Dr. Cima here on Mr. Biz Radio. We'll come back after the break.
If you would like to reach hundreds of thousands of business owners every week, Mr. Biz Radio can help. Our show airs globally 7 days a week for more than 25 hours across several internet radio stations, plus 20 plus podcast platforms. Also, video exposure on the new exclusive Mr. Biz Network streaming channel, which gets blasted to 100 plus streaming platforms, and the Mr. Biz YouTube channel, and our 350,000 social media followers multiple times every week. Join Mr. Biz Nation as an advertiser by emailing us at info@MrBizSolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to scarcity countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right. Only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit getpulsetools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Got a question for Mr. Biz you want answered on air? Email it to info@MrBizSolutions.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to Mr. Biz Radio, Mr. Biz Ken Wentworth, and again, talking with Dr. James Cima this week, talking about some of these fallacies of health and sort of, Dr. Cima mentioned in the first segment, the cholesterol thing. So, again, I was pretty young back then, but I feel like, in looking back, as I started to delve into some of these things, again, nowhere near what you have, of course, but and again, I hate to even say that, almost like kind of tinfoil hatish in some ways, but I almost feel like they put it out there, like let's start with this whole cholesterol thing, and like eggs are bad, and like some of the things you mentioned, and let's see if they buy this, and then, oh wait, this is catching some steam, and so now what else can we do, and what else can we do? And I feel like, and maybe this is just again a neophyte in the space, but I feel like so often we're treating the symptom and not the problem.
Always.
And
Yep.
yeah, and it's like, well, if you just always treat the symptoms, you never fix the problem, the underlying problem. And then by treating the symptoms, taking medications, and then now the side effect from this one makes you take this one, and now the side effect from one of these two makes you take a third, to your point earlier about the average 65-year-old is taking between 5 and 10. It's like, well, you have all these problems on top of all these problems, and then where does that leave you, especially 10, 20, 30 years down the road if you start this early in your early ages.
Absolutely. And we can go back to the cholesterol, because this is really interesting. Well, back in 78, 79, I was really getting involved with nutrition. I said, well, what's the two most important things I need to know about nutrition if I'm dealing with patients? And one was, okay, what kind of foods should a person eat? Everybody's different. Everybody's unique. And so you'd have to come up with various types of nutritional profiles for each particular patient. Also, I was dealing with patients who had diabetes, who had digestive problems, who had colon problems, who had problems that they had no gallbladder. So you'd have to kind of develop a nutritional profile, not only just for the foods that they eat, but also what kind of supplements they could utilize to help improve their digestive problems, or gallbladder or liver or whatever it may be, pancreatic. So I said, okay, the two most important things you need to know is what kind of food you should be eating, and then what your body's doing with those foods. Kind of like your car. If it's not running properly, you either need a tune-up or you're putting the wrong fuel in. Either way, if you do everything correctly, everything will be fine. The same thing with your body. So at the time, it was interesting because you ask the right question. This is something it's really key. I've learned this a long time ago, Ken. If you ask the right questions in the right way, you will get the answers. Your mind will come up with the answers. That's the amazing part. A lot of times people ask the wrong questions, like, why am I stupid? I mean, that's not a really good question to ask yourself, because your mind's going to come up with about 30 reasons why you're an idiot. So you have to really phrase the question properly. And so I said, okay, if I need to know those two things, what can I utilize to validate that? And it was a blood test. And I met two doctors. One doctor used it for determining what glands or organs may be malfunctioning, and utilizing vitamins, minerals, homeopathic remedies, herbs, glandulars to help repair and rebuild the body. And the other one was like, another doctor utilized it. Actually, he cured himself of pancreatic cancer back in the 50s. He was a dentist. His name was Dr. Kelly. And he went from dentistry into nutrition. And he basically dealt with a lot of cancer patients. So he was talking about how you can develop a great diet. So now I'm looking at all this nutrition. And back in the early 80s, cholesterol levels were between 225 and 325. That was normal. Then somebody said, you know what? There's too much heart disease. Heart disease has been #1 killer in the United States for decades before that. So that wasn't a big thing. But what happened was they linked cholesterol with heart disease. And so they tried to do it with diet, but most of your dietary cholesterol is not even utilized by the body. It's just pushed right out, because the body manufactures 80% of your cholesterol. Actually, your liver produces 80% of your cholesterol. So how bad could that be? So then they started saying, okay, it's a problem with cholesterol, But the problem was, it was that when they saw that the inner linings of the vessel walls, the blood vessel walls, were being clogged up, they blamed cholesterol. They blamed a portion of cholesterol called LDLs. Now, LDLs basically patch cell membranes. That's their goal. That's their purpose. So if you're utilizing bad food, bad diet, smoking, drinking excessively, and all the rest, you're literally having razor blades going through your blood vessel and scarring the walls of the blood vessel inner lining, is called the intima. And as you keep on scarring it, the body's going to take LDLs and patch it up, patch it up, patch it up. You go through decades of that. The patch is so big, it's now clogging the artery itself. And so they say, okay, we got to do something. We got to, figure out how we can get rid of these LDLs. And that's when they decide that, okay, it's produced by the liver. We gunk up the liver with statins. We call them statins. So it can't produce cholesterol, and your cholesterol levels will drop. And so, but they didn't realize that the LDLs not only used to help patch up cell membranes, they used to make your sex hormones. Okay, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. 5 to 10 years after the statins came out, the erectile dysfunction drugs came out. And because men now couldn't even produce testosterone because they were having their LDL so low that they couldn't even produce it anymore. So with that being said, the windup was okay, it now can't, it's utilized to patch cell membranes. It's utilized to make your sex hormones. It's also utilized to make something called phospholipids, which are the fat that surrounds your brain to prevent it from short circuiting. So now you see people with dementia occurring in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. Now, look, if you're 80 and 90 or 90 or 100, you're developing dementia. I can understand that to a degree. But when you're 65 and you start to have premature senility and dementia, that's not a good sign. And a lot of it has to do with just the eradication of your phospholipids by keeping your cholesterol levels so low. So those are like some of the major things that the LDLs utilize that they want to keep really, really low. And they took the cholesterol levels and they lowered them to 150. And, they was 225 to 325. Everything was fine. Lowered them to 150. And guess what? Heart disease is still the number one killer.
Right.
It's the same crap. And except now they make a lot more money, by doing the open heart surgeries and all the different things that they need to do to kind of save your life. But and if lowering your cholesterol was the answer, we would have had such a decrease in the amount of heart disease over the last, now it's 40 years. Cholesterol statins came out. It's 40 years just about. So it's kind of like, it's not doing any good. It's still the number one killer. And it's making, let's say, even more men, dysfunctional from a erectile dysfunction standpoint, and really now have an impact on the life of the people out there. So those are the big things. And I watched the cholesterol levels drop and drop and drop and drop and drop. And I said, they're going to cause disease. And sure enough, they did. And the interesting thing was, back then they said, stay away from fats, stay away from fats, stay away from fats. So they went into this high carbohydrate diets back in the mid 80s. I said to myself, they're going to cause diabetes and they're going to cause more obesity. And sure enough, 40 years later, that's what we call the United States of obesity. It's like, I see people walking around. Ken, I was with my wife the other day. We were at the supermarket. We were walking, people were walking around so heavy and so obese, and they're hanging on to the cart. They're literally hanging on to the cart because they couldn't even stand up straight. And it's really sad. It's a sad state of affairs out there. So
yeah,
I mean, take on cholesterol.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And again, you've just demonstrated, as you walk through that timeline of what I was mentioning before, as well as one on top of the other. You need this medication, you need this medication. A lot to get into in the third segment here. We're going to hit another break. Again, Dr. James Cima. You can find out more at cimahealth.com. You can also follow them on Instagram, LinkedIn, X, formerly Twitter, and then his YouTube channel.
How would you like to have direct access to Mr. Biz to help you run your business more profitably and more efficiently? At MrBizSolutions.com, you get live access to not only Mr. Biz, but also several of his hand-picked and trusted business experts, each with 20 plus years of experience to help you optimally manage and grow your business. That's just the start of where Mr. Biz Solutions begins. Learn more at MrBizSolutions.com. That's MrBizSolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to scarcity countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right, only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit GetPulseTools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Check out all 3 of Mr. Biz's best-selling books at MrBizBooks.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. A lot to cover. I'm sure you've been, if you're like me, like I'm during the break, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much to digest here. I love this topic. There's so many different things. And I literally was trying to determine during the break, I'm like looking through my notes. I'm like, man, I only got 9 minutes left. Dr. Cima, what can we talk about here? And what I think would be the best here is talking about, you know, we talked about cholesterol and we talked about some of the knock-on impacts of that and some of the medications. What right now, Dr. Cima, what are the top 3 killers in our society? And what are some things we can do to sort of avoid, you know, the trap of those?
No, that's really a great question. Actually, the three killers in the United States today, number one is heart disease. It's been that way for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to round numbers off. It's literally takes the lives of about 1 million people a year. And then you have the second one is cancer. And that's kind of climbing. That's almost becoming number one at this particular point. And it's an estimate of about 750,000 people a year. So we're at, you know, close to 2 million people. And the third leading cause of death is, I'd like you to guess or take a shot at what you think it is.
Third leading cause after
cancer. I mean, heart disease, cancer.
Yeah, heart disease and cancer. The third. Oh my gosh. I mean, honestly, and you said cancer is at about 750,000, so somewhere probably in the 500,000 to 600,000 range, I would guess. Oh man, I'm trying to think of something else along those lines. The flu?
No.
With elderly people?
No, it's just basically across the board. Actually, it's called iatrogenic disease.
Okay.
Disease caused by the physician.
Oh, really?
In Boyd's pathology, it used to be the second chapter. It's literally has its own chapter of how many different diseases that they cause. And basically, this is how many people that die every year from it. And it's roughly between, I've heard numbers between 250 to 500,000.
Okay.
And I say right now with the whole COVID thing, it's probably around 500,000.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's like, okay, if I don't die of heart disease or cancer, if I go to the doctor, he may kill me. So it's kind of like, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. Doctors work extremely hard, you know, especially the ones in ERs and things like that. And I would never say anything, you know, bad against them. They just realize this is what they have to do to save someone's life and all the rest. But as far as taking care of your health, they don't know anything about health. They take care of sickness and disease. You know, I'm a doctor of functional medicine. We take care of people's health, you know, because if you look at health, there's a definition of health. There's no definition of sickness and disease. There's a science called health. There's no science of sickness and disease. If I wrote a book and said how to be sick and diseased, would anybody want to buy it? Why would you even want to buy the book? But if I wrote a book on health and wellness, you're going to say, okay, there's principles of health and wellness. Just like there's principles, you know, throughout. Let's say there's no principles of poverty. I can't write a book on poverty and make you want to buy it, but there's principles on how to become really affluent, okay, financially. And that's what you really want to basically, so there are principles of finance. There aren't principles of poverty. It's just the absence of, you know, finance, proper finance. So when I'm looking at whatever, you know, person I'm looking at, it's kind of like, okay, you're looking at each particular heart disease, cancer, and doctors. So the first thing you can do is if you can do things to help take care of your heart disease, then you can kind of go from there. And as long as you're doing the same things to take care of your health, cancer and heart disease will be not big problems in your life. And again, how you do that is for each aspect of it. It's chemical, physical, mental, emotional wellness. Now, if you can balance all 3 sides, then you're going to be really healthy. You don't have to worry about sickness and disease or, you know, cancer and heart disease, because if you're able to understand and take care of your health, and if I have to leave everybody with this, you're responsible for your health. Don't allow your doctors to be responsible for your health, because as far as they know, they don't know who you are. You know who you are, and you
Mhm.
have to be the doctor. You have to be, listen to the doctor within. If you just learn, like, okay, there's a chemical approach to health, a physical, and mental, emotional, and that's in my book, Achieving Unlimited Health, and you can get that on my website, and you get a PDF copy for free. I recommend anybody, if they're really interested in taking care of their health, that they do get that book and read it, not once but about 10 times, because it's chock full of information, how to make your mind, or how to make your life successful, how to take care of your body from a chemical perspective. And these are all the principles that you really need to know. If you understand the principles, then everything is kind of eradicated. And I have so many people coming in, their biggest problem is their diet and their weight. And their weight has a lot to do with the obesity, which is the cancer and the heart disease. So if you can just get rid of your obesity, because that is the number one killer, Ken. It's not heart disease, it's not cancer, and it's not doctors. If you take care of your body and you don't become obese, chances of heart disease and cancer are nil. And if you don't have to deal with that, then you don't even have to go see doctors to figure out what's going on with you. You can just take care of yourself. So it's always looking at looking at your life. It's like right now, I know every person out there, every person listening to this, if you say, where are your problems? Is it chemical? Is it physical or mental, emotional? If you're in pain, and you're in constant pain, you have migraine headaches all the time, okay, and it's a physical problem, the only way you're going to get that treated is through a physical treatment program. Same thing with the nutrition. Like I said, to do proper nutrition, you want to utilize a blood chemistry, so you got something to back it up with. And the mental, emotional, it's like people get really, again, they're really stressed out. Especially now in today's age, it's like it's frightful what I see people going through. And this is happening almost on a daily, say, day in my practice. Some patient comes in and says, a friend of mine died. We don't know if it was the COVID shot. We're not sure. And I'm hearing all these people dying, not like at 90. You can understand that, but at 65, 70, 75, heart disease, cancer. It's like boom, boom, boom. And it's like nobody's doing anything to kind of help improve this with the average person out there. Because I like to see a show, and I like to put a show on, the Good Health Channel, where you can kind of go and like learn about nutrition, learn about exercise, because nobody knows how to exercise properly. That's another thing I see out there. I've been training for decades, and I watch the way people work out, and I see the kind of form and technique that they utilize, and it's kind of exercise that they do, and I'm like, why are you doing that to yourself? You're not, if you're exercising that much and you're in pain and you're having all these problems with your weight, you're obviously doing a lot of things wrong. And
Mhm.
so, and I know it because it's been decades. It's like I've watched this. I've watched, I was, basically at one point when I first was practicing, I was 165 pounds. I got into bodybuilding. I went to 240, 250 in about 5 years without drugs, without anything. I was in my mid 40s at the time. And I knew a lot about nutrition. That's what allowed me to figure out, okay, I don't need to do this with drugs. And I know how to figure out how much protein to take in, and the same thing. And then once I got to that point, I just said, you know what? I'm literally killing my body. I'm working so hard that I'm just like, I'm always in pain. So I decided that I'm going to go back and take up golf again. So I went from 240 down to like about 180, 187, which I am now. And so it's kind of like, I know how to go up, I know how to go down. It's not
Yep.
a big secret to me. And if people understood the whole principle about body composition as opposed to weight, they wouldn't have a problem with that. So if you can get the bottom line is, if you can get your weight to a good amount, you'll take care of heart disease, the majority of cancer, and you only have to go see doctors. Then you just go see doctors just for having them kind of check you out and just making sure everything is going well. So,
Yeah, you said the exact same thing, Dr. Cima. I used to compete in powerlifting, so I had the
okay,
same thing. So
yeah,
I got up to 230 at one point,
yeah,
and I started out at 175, 180, got up to 230, and was like, okay, I felt like I weighed 500 pounds. I wasn't comfortable. Got down, and I've been 190 for the last, I don't know, 20 years now. But
yeah.
very important to know how to do that, though, and I think that's a big part of it, and it eliminates obesity. Unfortunately, we're out of time, Dr. Seaman, but I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Ken, it was a pleasure. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And don't forget, as always, cash flow is king.
To become part of Mr. Biz Nation, follow him on all social media platforms or never miss a show by going to MrBizRadio.com. If you prefer free video content, visit the Mr. Biz YouTube channel or check out his streaming channel, which is available on 100 plus streaming platforms at MrBizNetwork.com.